You're listening to the Disruptive Franchise Podcast with Stacey, the podcast that celebrates innovation in franchising and peeks behind the curtain of failure, success, and the future of the franchise industry. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of the Disruptive Franchise Podcast. This week, I'm joined by special guest Anna from Caterpillar Music. Hi, Anna.
Hello.
How are you doing? You good?
I'm very good, thank you.
Good. Thank you so much for joining us this week. So as a previous finalist at the Disruptive Franchise Awards, we wanted to get you on and have a chat and hear a little bit more about the behind the scenes of your business. So you run Caterpillar Music in Newark, don't you?
I do.
Tell us about yourself and the business.
Well, I am an ex-primary school teacher. So I was signed off from work with stress 12 years ago now that I bought my franchise. And while I was signed off with stress, I looked at search things like what could I do after teaching. I still wanted to work with children. I still wanted that interaction. I just didn't want all the pressure that comes with a primary school teacher job. And on an internet search, Caterpillar Music Newark came up. So I went on a discovery day in London to find out what it was about. Didn't really know anything about franchising up until that point. And then on the train on the way back, I was looking at how I could make it work. How could I fund it? How could I escape the classroom? And that was the start, really. And now we're 12 years on and got 4 members of staff, and I absolutely love it. I still love it 12 years down the line.
It's funny, isn't it? That passion just builds. And I found that as a franchisee as well. Like, I was no less passionate at the end than I was at the start. I just loved it even more.
Yeah. I think because it's your baby, like you're growing it, and you can see, that the more you put in and the more you get out. Whereas teaching, you can just put more and more and more and more and more in, and you do get things out of teaching. Of course you do, but there's always something else that you have to do. You never can go, right, I've done my best in everything. Everyone's happy, because they're not.
Yeah. That's true, isn't it? I'm like, for me personally, I can't imagine being a teacher. Like, it's not me at all. Although I've taught lots of different children in first aid classes and stuff like that. Like, my hat comes off to anyone who is a teacher, because I've got 3 kids, and that's enough for me, let alone a classroom with them. So totally get that. What was it like going from being in, I guess, quite a controlled environment in the class or in the school, not necessarily the classroom, but to being self-employed? What was that leap like for you?
It was a very big change, but I was really fortunate because my head teacher let me drop to 2 days a week in school. So I did a Tuesday and a Thursday in school, and I ran my business Monday, Wednesday, Friday initially, just while I was building up numbers and sort of getting ready to take that big jump myself. And then 2 years in, my business was doing really well. I was at the point where I could go, right, I don't need that security and that income from the teaching anymore. I can go into my business full time. But it's a big change. It's a big change, and It's quite frightening, which is why I was very grateful to be able to go it like little steps.
Yeah. Definitely. What was the hardest thing about being a business owner that was completely different about teaching?
I think it's the fact that it all falls on you. There's no safety net when you're running a business. You've got to make it succeed, because if you don't, there isn't anything else. It's things like you don't get sick pay, you don't get holiday pay, all of those things. You have to suddenly go, I need to allow for that, and I need to make sure that my classes are full. But then that also spurs you on, because you do.
Yeah, it's that thing, isn't it? There is no plan B. This just has to work, and that's that.
It has to work. I mean, you can tweak things, obviously, when things aren't quite doing what you want. You have the freedom to do that, whereas sometimes in teaching, more and more so now, you don't have that freedom. When I started as a primary school teacher, national curriculum was just coming in. So up until that point, when I started, you didn't have to teach anything specific. It was just, here's your class, do what you like, teach the history that you're passionate about, teach the art that you love, teach the music that you like. There wasn't you must teach this in this year group. I'm not sure. Teachers who qualify now, I'm not sure whether they would like that. They'd probably go, oh my God, I've got no plans, I've got no structure. Whereas to go the other way is quite hard.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think about this a lot actually, because I think for my kids and what they get taught. So I've got like my oldest is 3 years older than my youngest, and they're doing the same things, and every year they do the same things. And I feels very structured for sure. And I'm a child of the 80s, so I don't think we had that same structure of we're doing this. I think it was very much like the way that we learn times tables, for example. We learn them by rote. So 1 times 2 is 2. And my kids have got all these, like, there's the technology and all of the different structures, and they have to do it this way and that way. And then they've got my boys have got their multiplication screening test this year. So we're like really focused on that. God, I don't remember having any of this. When we were able, we just told our teacher that we knew it, and then we recited it, and then we got a gold star for it. Like, it was completely different back then, wasn't it?
That's really different.
It's quite a change from now. I hadn't really considered that.
Yeah, it's massive. You know, things like when I was at school, I went to a really small little village primary school, but we would, you know, look at the birds that were on the playground and draw them and write about them and work, you know, look where they'd come from, look where they might go. There's none of that now because there isn't the space in the curriculum to do that. And it isn't that the teachers don't want to, they just don't have the freedom that I had. It's a bit sad, I think.
Very. It is, yeah. The creativity and the passion, I think, is lost there because, yeah, you're delivering to a plan rather than having that free reign. So I guess in that respect, being a business owner, I know you've got the, you know, obviously lesson plans, I'm sure, for what you do, but equally to have that creativity and that control, was that quite refreshing?
I love it. I absolutely love it because you can go, you know, we do have our lesson plans, you know, our set things, but there's freedom in there to do that as you want. So if there's something you really, really like doing, you can incorporate that, you know, like silly things like dressing up or like I always celebrate Wear a Hat week for brain tumor research because I had an uncle that passed away from a brain tumor. So for me, that week is a massive one. Other franchisees might not do that. They might choose another charity or another thing that they love, but to have that freedom to go down that path really is lovely.
That's really lovely. And what a lovely way to mark that for your own kind of personal reasons. That's really lovely.
Yeah.
Really nice. I think a lot of the time when I talk to people outside the industry about franchising and becoming a franchisee, I think they have a very narrow view of, well, you're going to get told what to do and it's not yours. And I get the sense from you that you, within Caterpillar Music, have completely the opposite experience. What would you say to those people out there that have no idea what it's like being a franchisee and feel that it's quite confined?
I think instead of seeing it like that, like it's controlling, I think you need to see it like it's a family and it's a support network. You know, you've always got somebody there who's done it or is going to cheer you on if they haven't tried it and you're going to. They will be your cheerleader. There's somebody to ask. Whereas if you set up as an independent, I mean, I have every admiration for people who do set up as an independent because you've got to do everything. Whereas if you're in a franchise, people have already proven that it works. You know, there's always somebody to ask. And I love
confidence, isn't there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I really didn't know anything about franchising at all before I bought mine. But I do love the fact you've got that family around you.
What made you think, yeah, okay, do you know what, I'm going to take the leap?
I really needed to get out of the classroom. I really did. And I wanted to keep working with children. And this seemed like the perfect balance. It let me do the teaching, let me use my teaching skills. So I go into a lot of nurseries. Now I'm going into more and more schools as well. So I'm still doing the teaching bit. I'm still in school, but I get to go in, do all this lovely stuff, and then pack my bag and go again.
and leave and get coffee.
Come in, cause chaos with my music. And then, yeah, it's nice to be that person who just comes in and is happy. And, you know, the staff get a little bit of a break. I mean, I'm really fortunate the schools I'm in, the staff are really involved and they're interacting with the children, getting those observations done that they maybe don't have time for otherwise. But they do get that chance just to step back and breathe while I get to do what I love and then go away again. Yeah.
What happens in a Caterpillar music class? For anyone who doesn't know the brand, I know you guys quite well, but tell everyone what the classes are about and what you get up to.
So we have 40-minute classes. Everyone explores a different theme, so we can choose what themes we've done. So this morning I've been doing Sing a Rainbow this week. So we have 10 minutes of nursery rhymes, 10 minutes with puppets, individual puppets, all the children get to use one, 10 minutes with musical instruments, and then we have 10 minutes of action songs. So that might be scarves, it might be a parachute, it might be ribbons, might be 5 little monkeys, loads and loads of different options. And then we always have bubbles. I always incorporate bubbles somewhere because who wouldn't?
Who doesn't love bubbles?
Who
Come
doesn't
on.
love bubbles? Who does that? I've got one lady in one of my care homes who really doesn't like bubbles at all, but everyone else loves them.
Love it. So you do care homes as well as children?
Yeah, I do 7. I think we've got up to now 7 care homes a week. We started with 1, so we've been going to 10 years now into care homes. We started with 1 and now we're up to, I think it's 7 a week. So we bring the children in with us. Parents and children would have a class the same as they would anywhere else, but then the residents can join in as much or as little as they like. Some think that they're not going to join in until they're handed a puppet by a very enthusiastic 2-year-old and then they don't have any choice. But yeah, I love them. They're very, very special classes. Very special. And now we've got more and more franchisees are doing that, which is great. So
nice, isn't it, to be able to bring the community together? I think one of the key themes I see when I talk to franchisees is that passion for the community. I was very lucky enough to do franchise training this morning, is what I was doing before recording the podcast. And we were looking at like, what do you want from your business? And all of the franchisees on the training all said the same thing. I want to be able to be actively involved in my community. I think being a franchisee is a really good way of doing that because you've got a structure and you've got the confidence, like you say, that family behind you to then go out and have the reason to be part of the community, right?
Yeah. And because your franchise area is where you live generally, you make links with everybody. I'm in really lucky because I'm in schools, I'm in nurseries, I'm in care homes, I'm in community halls. I mean, my children despair every time we walk into town. I see, how do you know that? How do you know them? And I think I do know a lot of people because I've been going for 12 years now. So there's children who are now at secondary school, but they'll still say hello. Yeah. Yeah. They still remember it, which is lovely. I've had my first one who I taught as a teacher who brought their child to my class recently. So that made me quite old.
That's magic though, isn't it? However old that made you feel, that is magic.
It was amazing. Yeah. To watch them as a parent, when you've seen them as a 10-year-old, that's really quite special.
Yeah, that is absolutely awesome. Oh, I love that. So for 2025, I say 2025 because I don't know when people are going to listen to this, so they find it at all different times. You were one of our finalists at the Disruptive Franchise Awards for Franchisee of the Year. Tell us about that. Tell us what made you apply or be nominated if you were nominated and what you got from that whole kind of recognition. Because we always kind of was focused on the winners, but one thing we always say at the Disruptive Franchise Awards, even to make finalists, like you've done so well to be there. And it's only people with incredible businesses that get that far. So tell us what that was like for you.
It was more special reaching the finals because I'd applied the year before and I didn't reach the finals. So to do it the second time and get there felt like a massive achievement. I just love it as an event. I mean, I love getting together anyway with other activity providers. It's a good chance to share good practice. It's a good chance to see what everybody else is doing and have a talk to people who understand what it's like to run a business. Everybody that reaches finals, that how hard they're working. So although there is a winner, you feel like you're a winner just being there because you want those people to do well as well. There isn't that horrible, oh, they've won, I don't like them. There isn't that at all. I find the franchise environment everywhere I've gone, everybody's really supportive of each other and will help you. They want you to do well as you want to do well yourself. But no, I was really proud and the event was lovely. And it's just a nice chance to share good practice and catch up with friends who you don't see very often.
It's so nice, isn't it? To just all be in a room and be able to relax because you know that you're there for the day and you get a bit of lunch and you can have a good chat. And I completely echo what you say there. There's no competitive, everyone wants to win, but there's no competitive like slighting, or there's no looks or like about it, because like you say, everyone in that industry is just so firmly rooting for everybody else. We all do well if we all do well. It's so evident kind of. And so last year was my first year organising it. So I didn't know that you'd been in the process the year before. So that's really special. I've won that award the first year that it happened, and I was blown away. I couldn't believe that I would take that home. But last year in particular as well was the biggest year for applications that we've ever had. So not only did you make finalists, you made it in a year where there were exponentially more people involved in it. So you did really, really well. Yeah, absolutely. And I felt like with the day, I always feel like this when I go to an event, but like it feels so relaxed. Like there are some events you go to and you're a bit stiff and a bit, oh, but at that event itself, like wandering around the room at lunchtime and just seeing everyone having a natter and laughing, and like you say, that the opportunity to be able to share best practices is working for me. We tried this. What I also really like about those events is that although it's not necessarily about sharing suppliers at franchisee level, it's the little tips and tricks in the classes, isn't it? Oh, I did this and this worked really well. Did you get any of that?
I spoke to people that I've not spoken to or ever met before, and that was really lovely. Like I got to meet Lewis Compton, who did a bit of talking, and I now do follow him. And, just seeing the world in a different way and getting to know people that you wouldn't probably otherwise come across. Because I always much prefer talking to people I've met in person.
Yeah.
I feel like it's much easier to ask something if you've actually met somebody rather than just seeing them, online or sliding into emails or, I'm much better face to face with people.
Yeah.
I think most
absolutely.
children's activity providers are. That's why they do that job. They're people.
Yeah.
They want to make connections and chat. And I think there's sort of becoming less and less of that in the world. And
Yeah.
I think we need it. As humans, I think we need it.
It's that real connection. That's what a lot of people miss. I think where, again, like with a franchise, you have your franchise network. So you know your franchise network quite well, usually. But outside of that network, it's a whole nother big scary place to like dip your toe into. And like, as an introvert, I don't put myself in many situations where I feel uncomfortable because I don't like it. And as an adult, I don't need to. I don't need to force myself. But in situations like that where the room is so warm,
Yeah.
it encourages you to actually approach different people. And I think that's the importance of being on stage as well. Like with Lewis, we got him on stage and he presented some awards, which was great. But I think the perception of what somebody is or who somebody is immediately broken in a much better way when you've heard them speak out loud. And it's nothing like being on the stage to make you speak out loud. So that's wonderful, really wonderful.
But, I mean, there's friends that I was at the Disruptive Franchise Awards with that I've met at previous events and awards. So Helen Wilson is an example of that. We are really good friends now, and we've become friends because we met at awards. We've been against each other so many times in various different awards, but we support each other. And then recently there was a franchise area close to me that was up for sale. And I know that she's run 2 franchises before. And I knew I could reach out to her and say, right, what do you think? How would I go about it? What are the pros? What are the cons? And I knew she'd be honest with me because she's done it. She's lived it. And to have that person, who's maybe not in your immediate little franchise family, who you can just bounce ideas off, but just invaluable.
Yeah, I love that. Helen is such a people person as well.
Oh, she's a real people person.
She's a real people person. We love her. She's back this year as judge again. Couldn't not have her because she's just gold. She's got such a good eye for it. And I think part of that as well, like I know you were there the night before the awards, and we won't talk necessarily about the end of that night. But it was really nice actually for me. So usually when I go to events, I don't really do any like pre or post stuff. I just do the event and that was it. But obviously as the host this year, I kind of had to be there. So I did. But it was so nice to actually just socialize and relax.
Yeah.
It didn't feel pressured or it didn't feel like anyone had to be there. It was just nice to sit and have a couple of drinks and have some food and just like, I felt really much more relaxed going into the day itself. having spent that time the night before with a group, like
because you
small
get to
group
know
of us who
faces
just
as well.
love it.
Like I met people the night before that I didn't know before, and then the next day when you arrive at the actual event, you can go and say hello again because you know them.
Warmer.
It's warmer. It's more relaxed. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree. I love it. And if there was one thing you could do without fear of failure, what would you do?
I would grow more. I am growing and I'm growing steadily. But if I knew I couldn't fail, I would push it a lot more, I think, and a lot more quickly. I think there's always that little bit of nagging fear still. I'm doing my best to get rid of it, but it is all still there. And then now I employ staff as well. So the worry for them, that the work has got to stay there for them as well, that feels like quite a big responsibility. Whereas if I knew I couldn't fail, I'd just go, right, let's just book this one. And they would all miraculously just fill themselves.
That'd be so nice. Can you imagine? Yes, please.
I think everybody feels like that, don't they?
Love it. Yeah, they do. But I think kind of that hurdle of employing that first team member. I remember being there as a franchisee and it was such a big leap because what if I fail? What if I can't? What if it all goes pear-shaped and then I'm responsible? So to be at 4 staff is amazing. Absolutely amazing. But I understand that fear. I understand it very well.
Yeah, it's been a big step. It's been a steep learning curve, but I've reached out. I've got people who deal with my HR before me. I've got people who deal with my health and safety for me. So I've got those bits covered because I think sometimes you need to know when to ask for help, recognize the bits you can't do that you're not an expert in and you don't really want to be. If you want to learn it, then great, go for it. But, things like HR, it's so important to get it right. And unless you're passionate about it and you want to learn it, give it to somebody who is, let that expert take control of that bit.
Yeah, zone of genius. It's not mine. It's yours. Have it. Absolutely. I completely agree. I think you can get really trapped in a business otherwise if you're trying to do it all. I've certainly seen that over the years where you end up resenting the business because you're trying to do all these things that you don't like doing. And so you let go because you think, well, I've got to stop teaching now because I need to manage these people. But it's the teaching bit that you love. If you let go of that, the whole core of it's gone because what's the point? Then you've got yourself a job that you didn't want to have. So I completely agree with that. Yeah, amazing. Good stuff. Anna, thank you so much. How can people reach you if they're listening in and really want to get in contact?
They can email me on anna.coggan@caterpillarmusic.com, or I am on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, all at Caterpillar Music Newark. Any of those.
Amazing.
Find me.
Amazing. Go and give Anna a follow. She's brilliant on social media and she's a lovely person as well, as you all just heard. Anna, thank you so much for joining me this week. We'll sign off there. Absolute pleasure. We'll see you next week on the Disruptive Franchise Podcast. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Before we finish up today, I'd love to just thank our podcast sponsors, Book When and Make Your Mark Podcast Agency, without whom this episode wouldn't have been possible. You can find more information on both amazing companies in the show notes. If you've enjoyed listening to today's episode, please also make sure that you hit the subscribe button. And I would absolutely love it if you left a review too. See you next time.